In the late 16th century, Paolo Veronese, a renowned Renaissance artist, painted one of his most famous works, Leda and the Swan. At first glance, the painting might seem to depict a swan kissing a woman, a scene that could be considered scandalous or even suggestive of bestiality. However, what Veronese was truly portraying in this work is a well-known Greek myth. In this legend, a swan, who is actually the god Zeus in disguise, sexually assaults a woman named Leda. From this act, several children are born, including the famous twins Castor and Pollux and the beautiful Helen of Troy. This story has been depicted in art over and over again, but why? Why would such a powerful god disguise himself as a swan to commit such an act? What is it about this myth that has captivated so many artists throughout the centuries? It all begins with Zeus, the all-powerful king of the Olympian gods, known for his many lovers and his ability to transform into various creatures to approach mortals. One day, Zeus set his sights on Leda, a beautiful queen of Sparta and wife of King Tyndareus. Desiring to possess her, Zeus devised a cunning plan to transform himself into a majestic swan. In the form of a swan, Zeus approached Leda, who was bathing in a pond near the Eurotas River, pretending to be fleeing from an eagle's attack. When Leda took him in and protected him, Zeus seized the opportunity to seduce her. Those were different times, and women were neither surprised nor alarmed by a talking swan. Thus, thanks to his charms, the swan seduced Leda, though in other, more violent versions of this myth, he raped her. That same night, after her encounter with Zeus, Leda also lay with her husband, King Tyndareus. As a result, Leda became pregnant by both Zeus and Tyndareus, leading to a unique situation. Leda laid 2 eggs, and from these eggs, 4 children were born. From the first egg, Pollux and Helen were born, said to be the children of Zeus. Pollux and his twin brother Castor, who was born from the second egg, are known as the Dioscuri, heroes who were venerated in antiquity. Helen, the daughter of Zeus, would be remembered as Helen of Troy, the woman whose legendary beauty sparked the Trojan War. The second egg also bore Clytemnestra, the future wife of Agamemnon and a central figure in the tragedy that followed the Trojan War. But why a swan? In Greek mythology, swans were associated with beauty, purity, and divinity. By taking this form, Zeus not only deceived Leda, but also used the symbol of purity to commit an act that, in any form, would be considered impure. When observing the painting, the first thing that catches the eye is the intimate and suggestive arrangement of Leda and the swan. Veronese has positioned Leda reclining on a kind of divan that occupies much of the space in the canvas. Her posture is relaxed, yet laden with erotic tension. She is completely nude, her pale, smooth skin illuminated in a way that accentuates its softness. The swan, which is actually Zeus in disguise, approaches Leda in a gesture that is both tender and unsettling. Its beak is in direct contact with Leda's lips. This kiss between the woman and the bird is the focal point of the work, making it both unique and provocative. Paolo Veronese was known for his masterful use of color, and this painting is no exception. The palette is rich and opulent, dominated by the warm tones of Leda's skin, the bright white of the swan's plumage, and the deep reds and greens of the fabric surrounding them. The background, with its crimson curtains, adds a theatrical air to the scene, creating a dramatic contrast that further focuses the viewer's attention on the protagonists. One of the most intriguing aspects of the painting is Leda's expression. There is no fear or rejection in her face. Instead, Veronese portrays her with an almost complacent serenity, adding another layer of complexity to the interpretation of the myth. Leda's expression could be seen as a sign of acceptance or even desire, opening a debate about the nature of her relationship with Zeus, a topic that has been discussed for centuries. Leda's body is idealized according to Renaissance standards, soft, rounded forms that embody the feminine beauty of the time. The way Veronese has painted her, with such pale and radiant skin, almost ethereal, places her in a space between the mortal and the divine. This treatment of her body also highlights the sensuality of the scene without crossing the line into the explicit, maintaining a delicate balance between the erotic and the artistic. To fully understand Veronese's work, I would like to compare it with other representations of the myth of Leda and the Swan. One work that stands out in contrast is Leonardo da Vinci's, which, although only studies and sketches exist today, presents a completely different vision. In Leonardo's sketches, Leda is a more modest figure with a calm expression, and the swan appears more as a companion than a lover. Leonardo's approach focuses more on the harmonious interaction between Leda and nature, without the same level of sexual tension that we see in Veronese's work. On the other hand, Correggio's version, created around the same time as Veronese's, depicts Leda in a more idyllic setting, with a swan that is clearly a divine creature, but the sensuality is softened by the overall atmosphere of the scene. Here, the interaction between Leda and the swan is more playful and less intense, which contrasts sharply with the almost carnal confrontation we see in Veronese's work. What makes Veronese's painting so unique and bold is precisely this focus on the moment of the kiss, a gesture that other artists avoided due to its symbolic and erotic significance. This kiss is the point of convergence for all the emotional charge of the painting, and its inclusion makes the work one of the most daring and provocative representations of the myth of Leda and the swan. Before we continue, let me take a moment to remind you that this painting is already available in the catalogue on our website, so you can purchase it to hang on your wall. I invite you to visit the catalogue once you finish watching this video and explore all the collections to decorate your home with a historical painting. You also have the option to buy a painting as a phone case so you can protect your device while carrying a work of art with you. Shipping is free worldwide. I'll leave the link in the description. We have explored the myth of Leda and the swan from its origin to its representations in art, but what is its true meaning? At its core, this myth speaks to the complex relationship between divine power and human vulnerability. Zeus, disguised as a swan, symbolizes the irresistible force of fate descending to possess Leda, a mortal caught between two worlds, the divine and the human. This act, which oscillates between desire and violence, shows us how the Greek gods not only intervened in the lives of mortals, but did so in unpredictable and, in this case, somewhat disturbing ways. The duality of the myth is also reflected in the nature of the swan, a creature that embodies beauty and purity, but in this context becomes a symbol of deception and power. Leda, on the other hand, is both a victim and an agent of her own destiny, as her union with Zeus and her husband on the same night results in the birth of children who will shape the course of history, such as Helen of Troy. This myth, like many others in Greek mythology, does not offer us a simple answer. Instead, it confronts us with the complexities of desire, power, and human frailty, themes that continue to resonate in our understanding of love and relationships today. It is a reminder that sometimes the divine and the human intertwine in ways that are as mysterious as they are unsettling. To conclude, I'd love to hear what you think about this painting, so please leave a comment with your favorite painting from this video. Give this video a like if you found it interesting, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on 2 art analyses like this every week. Make sure to visit inspiraggio.com and follow me on social media for more art-related content. See you in the next video. Bye.